welcome you to go ahead and subscribe youtube.com channel/C/Brenda Kasuva, our channel Brenda Kasuva, where you will find more videos that will continue this particular conversation. If we have not met, my contact information is displayed. Brenda Kasuva is the best way you will be able to get a hold of me or training with Brenda when you have the opportunity to go ahead and scan that particular QR code on the right hand side. You will be able to gain more information and save my information onto your phone. Otherwise, let's connect on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. All of them I go by Brenda Kasuva. What we offer is the Facebook group. We have the videos on YouTube as well. We also do conduct exam prep sessions as well with tutor sessions. Today we're focusing on contracts. 3 things that we're going to focus on. We start off with the promises. What's the difference between bilateral and unilateral? We then get into performance, where is it executed or executory? And then what is the status? Is it a valid contract, voidable contract, unenforceable, or enforceable? So those are the 3 things we're going to focus in this particular conversation. When we're looking at the exam, there are 2 main testing facilities. You have PSI, and then you have Pearson VUE. So depending on where you are in the country, you're going to expose to one of them. The one that I am most familiar with is PSI because I am located in Maryland. And when you go to their website and get the breakdown of the questions on the real estate exam, you will find contracts. It's the one that produces the most questions. And then it goes through, okay, Brenda, you need to know the general knowledge of contract law. And then it has those 10 things. Today I'm talking about the 3 highlighted, number 3, number 5, and number 10. If you don't have a breakdown of the questions, in the comments or in the video description, we shall put a video that gives you guidance on how you're able to get this for yourself, because it's very helpful for you to have a map or a study guide that you're able to use when you are doing your studies. I mentioned the second testing facility is Pearson VUE. Pearson VUE has it labeled as Real Estate Contract and Agency. You will find Pearson VUE as a testing facility for my friends, for example, in Texas or Delaware as examples. And Pearson VUE has it broken down this way for those of you who are in those states that engage with that testing facility. And I'm talking again, doesn't matter whether you're using PSI or no matter which state you're in the country, contract is going to produce the most questions. And mentioned, what I'm covering today is what is highlighted here under unilateral versus bilateral, executed versus executory, and then where are we? Is it a valid contract, void? Is it voidable, enforceable, or unenforceable? And I'm just showing you what else is on this particular topic for those of us who are using Pearson VUE. Once again, you can get this by going to their websites, or in the comments or in the description, you will see a video that I walk you through on how to get this particular packet that gives you the breakdown of everything in the real estate exam. So let's start with the creation. The contracts are created 2 ways. The beauty of the topic of contracts is that it doesn't matter what type of a contract it is, whether it's in the real estate world, whether it is with your contractors, with your lawyers, with your accountant. contract law is going to be similar. So a contract is created two ways. In the real estate world, there are a lot of contracts that we engage in. We have a contract with the buyer. We have a contract with the tenant to represent them. We have a contract with the landlord to list their property for rent. The seller who wants to sell their property, we have a contract with them. And then we have a lease, a contract between the landlord and the tenant. Another type of contract that you use a lot in our business is going to be the sales contract, the purchase agreement, whatever word you use in the country, is the agreement between the buyer and the seller. I want to buy, I want to sell. So all of these are types of contracts. You trying to get your real estate license, you're going to have a contract with your managing supervising broker. So contracts are created two ways: express contract and implied. Express words. Express words. These are words either spoken or written. Express, somebody has stated their intentions. Spoken words or oral, or it is in writing. So that's an express contract. Implied is going to be actions, not in writing. Implied actions, you're sending somebody a list of properties that they might be interested in. You're sending somebody to connect with some of the lenders that you have worked with in the past. There's, again, like it's implicit, it's implied. Nobody ever really said, Brenda, you're the one for me, but it's based on your actions. Outside of real estate, you do a lot of implied contract. You go to the gas station, and when you put in gas in your car, you expect it to pay. There was never really anything in writing. It was all actions. So actions not in writing, or implied contract, actions not in writing. In order for it to be binding, statutes of frauds come into play. So statutes of frauds is the definition that says things need to be in writing in order for it to be enforceable. You will see that word described again, or we shall go through that word, enforceable, a little bit later. So statutes of frauds is the one that says things need to be in writing in order for us to take each other to court. Now let's talk about promises. So we've covered how contracts are created. It's either express words, spoken, or in writing. Again, your state laws might say that it needs to be in writing, but again here for test purposes, express is spoken words or in writing. So words, whether they're spoken or in writing, is an express contract. Implied actions. Bilateral, two. However, most people, when I'm reviewing this part, they say two people, and I remind you that it's not about the amount of people, it's about the promises. So there are two promises being exchanged. It could be 4 sellers, 1 buyer. So it doesn't matter the amount of people. Here it's the promises. I promise to buy your house for this amount of money with this type of financing or cash. And then the other side, seller accept those terms and make sure that you, the buyer, are able to purchase. A promise for a promise. A bilateral contract is what you will have when you have the buyer has agreed to hire you. When you pass your real estate exam and now you're looking for a brokerage, the contract you'll be signing will be between you and your broker. That's a bilateral contract. You're promising to do something and they're promising to do something. Unilateral is one-sided in terms of the promise. In terms of a promise for performance, somebody throws something out there and then whomever that responds, then I am obligated to perform based on what I threw out there. So I'll go deeper, and I think the images are helping you a little bit in terms of the different types. So it's exchange of promises. Bilateral Two sides are exchanging promises, both are bound, a promise for a promise. Unilateral, one party makes a promise. I want you to do this, and if you do this, then we're going to do this. So it's if is the word that I'm going to use on this one. Unilateral, one party makes a promise, and they will only perform when the other side makes an action. Let's give examples. Bilateral contracts are when you have one between you and the buyer, you and the sellers, tenants and landlords. Those are bilateral. Their promises being made and being exchanged. When the buyer is having an agreement with the seller, that's a bilateral contract. You, when you get hired by your broker, that's a bilateral contract. Unilateral in terms of promises, one-sided. The examples we have there is like a bonus. When I say I'm going to put the property on for sale, and if anyone provides an offer that I accept by Mother's Day, then I'm going to give them a bonus of $2,000. That is one-sided. Because if we don't get the contract accepted by Sunday, then I'm not obligated to pay the bonus. Rent with the option to buy is the one that comes up a lot as an example for unilateral contract. You'll be given the choice to buy the house. If you don't buy the house, you still remain a tenant. Unilateral is also what we have when we are using the MLS. For those of you who are watching this, who are maybe working on their broker level license, unilateral is what we enjoy in the MLS when we put the property on for sale and maybe there's compensation going out to the buyer side. That's a unilateral contract, one-sided, a promise for performance. Next topic is, status. Where are we? Executory contract. This is where things are yet to be done. It is pending. This is another word for pending. This is another word for under contract. This is where people are working on their contingencies. If there was a home inspection that needed to be done, if there was an appraisal that needed to be done, if title work needs to be done, we are at this phase where things are yet to be done. That is an executory contract. Things are pending. Under contract, executory, things are pending. So what is it when everything is done? When all the boxes have been checked off. This is what some of us enjoy at closing, settlement, that final day. This is where we're at. So in terms of tracking the progress of this particular contract, which most likely, if I tie in all the dots, when we have an executed contract, guess what? We probably have what? An express contract, which most likely is going to be in writing. And then what most likely do we also have? A bilateral contract. So in review, connecting the dots, it's an express contract. It was in writing. And then we have a bilateral contract. People exchanged their promises. And now everything is finalized. It's an executed contract. Everything is done. Inspections are done. People have sold their houses if they need to. People have the money in the bank account to do the wire transfer. Title has been done. This is what is labeled as where we are when it's the closing, settlement, everything is done. Promises that were shared have now been fulfilled. That's an executed contract. So in review, we were connecting the dots, right? We connected the dots in terms of its settlement. I most likely have a bilateral contract between the buyer and the seller. Most likely, there was a sales or purchase agreement that was in writing. Therefore, it was an express contract. And then we have, what was the other one that we mentioned? Yep, it's an executed contract. Let's get into what does every contract need to have And now we are checking on the status or where we are in terms of the performance, so let's start off with every contract needs to have 5 things. In review, contract here could be a contract with your accountant, a contract with your lawyer, a contract with your plumber, a contract with your children, a contract with your real estate agent, a contract with your broker. So here go back to the basics of a contract. Yes, we do use a lot of contracts, but every contract, no matter what type of business it is, it will have 5 things. And those 5 things are something was offered and accepted, and you know about it. So offer, acceptance, delivery. We then have consideration. What is the value that is being exchanged in this particular arrangement? Consideration, something of value. It doesn't have to be money. And then we have consent. Both parties understand what they're getting themselves into, sound mind. We have it has to be legal. And then we have competency, which is age. So those are the 5 elements of any contracts. Let's bring that into real estate, right? If you have a contract between the buyers and the sellers, there was an offer, it was accepted, and both sides understood where they are in terms of delivery. Most likely there was a purchase price, which includes money, that's consideration. Everyone knew what they were getting themselves into. It is legal, seller can sell, buyer can buy, and everyone is of legal age per that particular state. So we have the 5 elements of the contract. Now here's where we start going into, so what type, where are we right now? Do we have everything? Do we not have everything? Are there question marks? That's what we're going into. So a valid contract has all 5. Valid, all 5. All 5 elements in review, offer and acceptance, consent, competency, it's legal, and it has consideration. All the boxes have been checked, all 5 things. So let's review. Once you and your buyer were working on an offer, it was then accepted by your seller. If it is in writing, or again, it might be spoken. Some states, maybe you are able to get a verbal offer. It's still a valid contract. Why? Because an express contract is words, spoken or in writing. And then a valid contract could also be what? Bilateral. There's a promise for a promise. There was an offer and acceptance. And then now we trace, okay, where are we? Is it executed? Things need to be done. Or is it executed? We're now at that final step when people are getting the keys and people are getting their money. So this is where you're going to tie up all the dots in terms of types of contracts. Void contract is going to be missing one of the 5. Void contract simply is missing one of the 5. Void contract is missing one of the 5. Therefore, if it is for something that is illegal, like gambling or anything like that, that is a void contract because it is an illegal act. Void is missing one of the 5. I'm keeping this as basic as I can for the goal of you passing the real estate exam. This is the one that I pause and review. Voidable, and I enunciate that on purpose. Voidable. There's a possibility of the contract being voided out. However, when we get to that stop sign, when we get to the junction, when we get to the stoplight, we stop, we review what has been presented, and then we either proceed as it being valid or we cancel everything out and it's void. So it's able to be voided. There's a possibility based on what has been presented. It's not automatic. We have to pause, review, dig deeper, and then proceed. So undue influence, you present the challenge. So then we're going to look at that challenge. Either we're going to bring in experts or we're going to have medical tests or anything to confirm that yes, you were having undue influence. And once that's confirmed, then we void out the contract. You are under duress. Were there any witnesses? Do we need to have again medical test done in order to confirm this? So it's able to be voided out, but then again we need to confirm the challenge that has been presented in order for it to be voided out. It's not always that the challenge is going to be accepted. Sometimes it's not, and therefore we proceed forward to be valid. That's why this is a question mark. Misrepresentation, anytime we have the question presenting a minor or under the influence, this would be a voidable contract. It is possible to be voided out. So in review, voidable, there's an opportunity for it to be voided out based on what has been presented. It could still move forward as being valid. Enforceable contract. So we're finishing up with the last two. Enforceable contract. Enforceable means that somebody could be forced to do what it is that they promised to do. So this is a valid contract in writing. Enforceable contract, I can take you to court because it is in writing per the statutes of frauds. It is a valid contract in writing. Enforceable contract has all the five. It's in writing. That's an enforceable contract. So by the time we get into settlement, most likely we have a bilateral contract between the sellers and the buyers. We have a valid contract. It has all the five elements. We have an enforceable contract because it was in writing per the statutes of frauds. So here again, we're connecting the dots in terms of where we are. And then at settlement, once everything is done and checked off, we now have what? An executed contract as well. Enforceable, valid contract in writing. Unenforceable contract is still a valid contract. The only thing here that is different is that it's not in writing. So an enforceable contract, again, could still be bilateral because it's between the two parties. There was a handshake, understood. Only difference here is that unenforceable contract is that it's not in writing. It's only valid between you two. You cannot sue each other in order to make sure the person performs what it is they shared they were supposed to do. That should be a brief summary of this particular session. We welcome your comments in the description in order for us to continue this conversation. You're welcome to scan that particular QR code, join me, and register for future sessions by going to our website at brendakasuva.com. Thank you for watching. Go ahead and subscribe for you to get notifications for our future videos. We want you to be successful in passing your real estate exam. Go ahead and check out the exam handbook or bulletin that breaks it down for you, the questions you can expect on your real estate exam. If you don't have access to that, we do have a link to a video that walks you through that in the description. Take advantage of the comments for us to respond to any of your questions. Lastly, schedule for your exam today. If you need assistance to pass the exam, we welcome for you to schedule a tutor session or attend our group coaching sessions that we offer on a regular basis. Until next time, go ahead and schedule your exam right away, and good luck.